Greetings, class. I want to take a moment to welcome each of you to week 4 of our ChatGPT and generative AI applications class. If you've been following along closely, you'll notice that we've moved this module forward from week 7, and there's a good reason for that. Based off of your reflections and feedback from both week 2 and last week, it became clear that before we go any deeper into applications, we need to talk about what happens when AI gets it wrong and how you can stay in control when it does. So this week, we're going to talk about one of the most important skills in AI literacy, and it's how to recognize, correct, and prevent hallucinations in AI tools, how to use fact-checking strategies and smarter prompts to reduce those risks. So let's talk about it. Starting with a simple but powerful concept, it's AI hallucinations. A hallucination is defined as when an AI tool like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude produces content that sounds correct, but it isn't. It might invent statistics, make up sources, misstate facts, or misinterpret the prompt entirely. And the most dangerous part about it is that it does this confidently, with perfect grammar, an authoritative tone, and often with fabricated citations to back it up. Well, why does this happen? It's important to understand when we're looking for the why that these tools don't actually know things. They don't think or reason. They're language predictors. So basically, it's a statistical engine, a calculator that guesses the most likely next word in a sequence based on patterns in their training data. So this is why AI hallucinations aren't just glitches, but they're structural limitations baked into currently how these models work. Now, at some point in the future, this may change. Now, I want you to understand that this impacts everyone. For instance, when building a course over the summer, I had done a ton of research. I had found the articles I wanted to use, and I was using ChatGPT to structure, okay? I was using it as a framework to organize it and create two-sentence introductions to certain things and to really create a format. Well, as I was working through it, ChatGPT offered to create this as a Canvas module, to create it, format as a Canvas page, and then eventually it offered to format it as an entire course, Canvas shell that I could import into Canvas. Now, the class itself was a basic class in regards to Microsoft Office, but I said, hey, you know what, if I can save myself all the time of formatting in Canvas, which for those of you who have ever had to experience it, takes quite a bit of time, I was like, let's do it. This is amazing. So I said, yes, create the Canvas shell. And it created a file that looked just like what a Canvas shell should look like. Tried to upload it, failed. Okay, troubleshoot. And over the next 3 days, because I'm one of those individuals that once I find a new feature, I have to exploit it, I spent quite a bit of time trying to work through it. And then eventually, it dawned on me that I may be chasing my tail and going in circles. And I said, ChatGPT, and I basically prompted, I said, hey, are you lying to me, Jarvis? Because I named my ChatGPT Jarvis. I said, can you actually do this? And at that point, ChatGPT responded to me that no, it couldn't do it. And I realized that, one, I had spent 3 days of my life spinning in circles, which was hugely embarrassing. But it also made me realize that no matter how comfortable you are using these tools, it's very easy to get sucked into being overly confident in the skill set and the abilities of the tool. Now, from there, I created some prompts and guidelines to really kind of keep me within the rails of what ChatGPT could actually do in helping me structure and format the course. And based off of that, I was able to implement some things that made a lot more sense and still was able to streamline the Canvas shell building process, but within the capabilities of what ChatGPT was currently able to do. So let's talk about some of the impacts of hallucinations in real world contexts. So we talked about my example in education, but It also impacts students because students may turn in work with fake citations or incorrect explanations. This damages their credibility. In journalism, AI tools have created false quotes or imaginary sources, which can lead to misinformation. In healthcare, using AI without double checking could lead to life-threatening advice. So even in business, generating a sales email or financial projection with inaccurate information could damage a brand's reputation. I've experienced that myself where I told ChatGPT, I want you to analyze this document. It was a financial statement. Help me forecast the next quarter and then the following year. And one of the things that was interesting was even though I had given it the exact data that it was to base its forecasting off of, it randomly replaced the data on 4 months with seemingly random information. So the point is this: the moment we overtrust AI output, we risk making bad decisions based on confident nonsense. It's easy for AI to sell us on something because it's so good at so many things. Now, what can we do about it? Well, the first thing is we got to talk about fact-checking strategies. It's our first line of defense. Any of you who have ever watched a presidential debate are probably familiar with the concept of fact-checking. It's where you ask for the sources and really go back and reference the original material, whether it be a recording, an article, a research paper, whatever it may be. It's interesting, though, just because you ask for the sources, you can't trust them blindly. Because ChatGPT will give you a quote and a citation, you need to double check it. I can't tell you how many times it's given me an article, and then when I click the link to the article, it does not match what was described to me. And the video summary, it does not match the video that it's supposedly summarizing. So it's important to take a moment to double check any citations. You can use Google Scholar or even use Perplexity AI to verify that the quote actually exists. The other thing you want to do is look for subtle errors. AI may get most of a paragraph right, but subtly change a date, a statistic, or a name, and these small errors can have big consequences. The other thing that I found useful in using AI tools for sourcing information is to use Perplexity AI. Now, I know last week we talked about it and we went through some videos on how to get the most out of it, but Perplexity AI is really, really interesting to me because it's built for research. So it combines all the great functionality of AI, but it does so with live web search and citation transparency. So it shows you where the information is coming from. It links to the real articles, journals, or news sources. I'll tell you how I use it. I use ChatGPT for structure or brainstorming, okay? But when I want to verify information, when I want to actually do research, I 100% rely on Perplexity AI because it's based around giving you the source information in real time. Now, the other thing is to be skeptical of overconfidence. So sometimes, just like in real life, the more polished it sounds, the more you should verify. Clarity does not equal accuracy. To give you an example, most of you have probably heard the saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Well, this is an example of that. If it seems just absolutely too polished, trust, but verify. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can use prompts to detect hallucinations. So it's kind of like using AI against itself. So you can prompt the AI to cite every claim. Can you provide a source for each major claim in your response? If it can't, that's a red flag. Ask it to fact check itself. A prompt like, double check your response for any hallucinations or unverifiable claims. What might be inaccurate? You can also use what are defined as adversarial prompts. So that would be, what is something you said in your previous answer that might not be true? And then, of course, you can always compare the responses between tools. One of my favorite things to do is ask a question in ChatGPT, then again in Gemini, Perplexity, and Grok, right? And you'll quickly find that each platform has its own specialty and real area of expertise. For me, I use Gemini for coding, and I use it now, especially with the release of Nano Banana, for editing photos and graphics. I use ChatGPT as kind of framework and brainstorming. I use Perplexity for research, and anything science or medical related, I tend to lean into Grok. Um, so keep in mind that good prompting isn't about getting better answers. It's about knowing when the answer might be wrong. And we're going to talk in great detail about prompting and prompt structure to make sure that we're really maximizing the capabilities of these tools. So as we wrap up, I want to bring this back to you. I want you to think about, how does this affect your daily use of AI? How can you protect your learning, your credibility, your thinking process when these tools feel so easy to rely on? You know, as humans, we tend to take the path of least resistance, and in some situations, it can lead us astray. AI potentially can be one of those situations. So this week's assignments are going to give you the chance to test some AI tools. You're going to reflect on an actual or imagined hallucination and explore perplexity a little bit more and how it can be a safeguard. It's kind of a research alley in an age of fast answers. So the goal is to use AI powerfully but critically without outsourcing your integrity or your brain. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I thank you for watching the video. Feel free to jump into the module and start exploring this week's readings and videos. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. I'm always here. Let's stay sharp, and I'll see you in the module. Thanks so much, folks. Bye-bye.